Hi, lovelies. It's me, Tamala Clover, with Dear Tamala, advice you can trust. And today we're going to be pulling some questions from all advice on Reddit. Um, the first title that really caught my attention was How Do I Convince My Wife I'm Really Working on Myself? So we're going to explore that and see what it's about. And hopefully we get to a couple more. They're all kind of themed today. I'm very excited. So let's go. So our OP asks, Hey all, I'm really trying to improve as a person, a dad, and a husband. I've been lazy, depressed, grumpy, irritable, emotionless, and pretty worthless around the house. To be honest, I don't know how long this has gone on for. All I know is that I'm changing and I need my wife to believe in me. A few months ago, after a pretty big falling out with my wife, I finally went to see a psychiatrist. I've been diagnosed with ADHD and severe depression. I'm on Vyvanse and Wellbutrin. Let me tell you, it's been life-altering. I've had motivation to get up and work around the house. I've actually done a ton of yard work. I'm really helping take care of the kids. I'm working out every day. Every day. I could see myself changing, but I still have problems with motivation. Sometimes still get stuck. I forget things I'm asked to do constantly. My wife doesn't really think much of me anymore. I don't blame her. I'm sure I really damage how she feels about me, and she doesn't see the change like I do. She took off her wedding ring about a month ago. It's been sitting on my desk collecting dust. She still loves me. We still have our intimate moments where she tells me so. I know what I need to do to be who she needs me to be, but I also need the support from my best friend. She has said she doesn't believe I'll keep going like I am, which is hurtful, but I can't blame her. You guys, I was really horrible. I feel like I was becoming Jabba the Hutt or something. Reddit, how do I convince her that I'm still working on being me? How can I get her to believe that I'm not going to give up and go back to how I was? I think this is an amazing post. Like, and honestly, I've been there myself. For one, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was, gosh, I think I was about somewhere around like 26 or 28 even, somewhere around there. And I had no idea. What I knew is that I also had depression, very severe depression, and I had for a very long time. And nothing seemed to really work for that all the way. I had a lot of trouble keeping things like consistent, staying motivated, getting things started, continuing things. I just struggled with everything, like keeping jobs, school, relationships. It was really hard, and I thought that was just me. I thought it's just there's something wrong with you, and there was depression too, which really makes it a lot worse. And during this time, I did have a long-term relationship, and I often felt really guilty and bad in it for not being able to be enough or be as good as I thought I should be, and it kind of makes me emotional. Like I really feel for the OP, because what he's saying is like I know what it's like to get on medicine for ADHD when you I don't think I'm supposed to like cry on these videos, you guys, but like seriously, if you guys don't know what it's like to have something like this and to get diagnosed and then to get something that helps you, like it is literally life altering, just like the OP said. It is amazing. It's like you finally have an ability to like kind of be yourself, and I'm so happy for the OP that he's found that. But it's also difficult because you have all these patterns and you have all this history with people, and like they don't necessarily see it the way that it is for you. And I will say this, it's a long journey. Like it's not perfect. All the other things that OP's saying about still having trouble like with motivation, remembering things, stuff like that, that's just part of it. It's part of it. The medicine doesn't fix everything. It gives you a good start, and it's a place to begin. And I can understand why his wife would be nervous that he's going to burn out, because sometimes, especially when you haven't been able to perform at your best with setbacks, like not having the right treatment for conditions, you could push really hard and then hit like plateaus or burnout. And but just from my own experience, I will say overall, a lot of the worst of like the things before treatment, like the things that were the most difficult for me, are so much better. And so I'm very hopeful for the OP. In this case, I think, first of all, there's a couple of things. There's the ADHD and the depression that needs to be first and foremost, not convincing the wife of stuff. It has to be like their health that comes first. And when I got my diagnosis with ADHD, I thought that I didn't even really need it. Like, I was looking into like alternative treatments for some other health stuff, and I had a partner that I'd been seeing tell me like, hey, you have this thing, you need to go to the doctor. And when we broke up, they like said, like, as they were like taking me back to my place, like, it's really like kind of heartbreaking moment, like, you really have this, like, and you need to get to doctor, and like, it's gonna change your life. And I'm so grateful that person, even when we were breaking up, said that to me, and like really over and over during the period of time that we were together, was like, no, you need to do this, you need to do this. And even after I did it, and like I saw the changes in me from like the medicine, I didn't understand how much of a factor ADHD was in my life until COVID. And I started looking on forums and things like that with people, especially people who were diagnosed later in life. There are a lot of things that you don't see as being ADHD related when you just look at it from the medical perspective, from the people who are the experts, who aren't the people with it. But when you talk to people who have this, who know what it's like to go through it, and to internalize negative messages, and to develop patterns that maybe aren't the most constructive, in your life, there's techniques that can be done. There's like, literally, you could like organize your whole life around having ADHD in a way that makes it easier for you to be consistent, with or without the medication. There are things that can be done. And so that would be strong advice from me to the OP, is like, you need to do that. And then the other thing is with depression is like, it depends on the kind of depression. It sounds like maybe this is something that's been ongoing, and that can be really hard. And you got to stay motivated with that too. Like, as somebody who has had depression of varying degrees consistently for like over 20 years, it's really hard. I've done a lot of different treatments, a lot of different things. I will say it can get better, and a lot better, just with the tools that you can learn. And if it's not therapy, it needs to be something else. But even when you're feeling better, if you have a history, my advice for the OP would be to, and for anyone else, is to have a support plan in place, even if it's one that you've made yourself. Have like places you can go, help that you can get, like, should things like take a turn and like you need more support immediately. But that's a big thing too. The severe depression is no joke. It really makes things so hard. And a lot of the way that the OP writes is like, I could see that in the writing, that very negative self-talk. And you could also get that from like internalized messages with ADHD that hasn't been treated. Because a lot of times, like, instead of just not having the right treatment, you think of yourself as lazy, incompetent, not smart, like all these negative things where it's not true. And I will say there are some, I think, superpowers that come with like things like having ADHD or other types of things like it. This is different, and so you have to figure out how to work within the world that you're living in, where like maybe it's not designed best for you and where you're at in life. As for the question of what to do with the wife and how to get her to be a support, I would say, one, take some pressure off of her for being the support. She has likely been supporting the OP in many ways for a long time and feels really overwhelmed. And like, we all want that validation, but some things need time to like show up. So I think the best thing he could do is not push for like her to like believe that he's always going to be different. It's definitely 100% this. That's not how people usually work. I think the best thing to do is to try to show how it's better and what steps is he taking to ensure that that trajectory continues, you know, and like report in more than he needs to, like not in a defensive way, but just be like, hey, I love you and I appreciate everything you've done for me, and I just want you to know that I really am working on this, and I'm going to keep working on this because my family is important, and this is closer to who I feel I really am and who I really want to be. And I'm going to keep working on this, whether you feel in a place to like give me the validation that, you know, I would like or want or not, because like it's on me, like it's on me to fix, because it is on him. It's on him to take care of, and that's regardless of anybody else doing anything. I think it's a good sign that they're still having intimate times and that she's still saying she cares. I think the ring thing is like kind of a big deal, but maybe it's her way of saying like, hey, I'm serious. Like, this doesn't work for me. And the way that's going. I will say, around like, I think it was year 6 in my relationship with my best friend slash partner, we started to have some disagreements and stuff and decided to go to couples counseling. Nothing serious, really. But we had started getting into that all or nothing stuff. Like, you always do this, you never do this. Techniques that used to work for like dealing with disagreements weren't really working for us anymore. And I think we were both like kind of worried because we had been together for a while, and that's kind of scary. Like when your relationship feels like it's kind of starting to spiral downwards, even if it's not very far down, it's still kind of scary. And I had a wonderful therapist that was willing to do couples therapy with us, which a lot of individual therapists won't do couples therapy. They consider that like a conflict of interest. Mine did, and she was great individually. She was great together. And one of the best advices, like pieces of advice that we got for the whole thing, was that get rid of that talk. Don't use all or nothing talk. Just don't do it. Don't say like, you always do this, you never do this, you said you were going to do this, you know what, you know, like don't talk like that. It's really unhealthy. It's very demotivating. People are not switches typically. They don't just like you flip a switch and then it's all perfect. What she said to do instead is this, and it's really helped our relationship. I think gosh, it's been so long. I think we're going on year 14 now. So made it a lot more years than that. And we're like really happy in the relationship. Like, it's really good, it's solid. And this advice has been so helpful, and I hope it helps some of you guys too. But it's like, if there's something in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a partnership or whatever, that is like kind of like needs to change, look at that thing and look at like, how intense is that thing? How often does that thing happen? And then when you're evaluating whether or not somebody is working on changing, look at, is it less intense than it used to be? Is it less frequent? So for instance, like say you're having fights and you don't want to have fights in the relationship. Are you having fights less often? Are your fights healthier? Are your fights shorter in duration? It could be done with anything. Like, say, I don't know, I'm not a smoker, but if you're a smoker, do you smoke less cigarettes in the day? Maybe you don't smoke all the cigarette. Maybe, you know, just different things. Like, so is it getting better? Like, looking at it very kind of like from a behavioral kind of perspective, and acknowledge it. Like, not both people acknowledging it's not perfect yet, it's a work in progress, and demonstrating steps that are being taken. Not just saying like, oh, I'm working on it, but like sometimes you need to say when it's really serious, how are you working on it? You know, and sometimes it's like I'm working on it in the inside, but I'm also like looking at like videos, I'm going to therapy, I'm doing this, I'm talking to my friend, you know, about how to do it. I have a peer-to-peer specialist, whatever, but like something tangible that you're doing to show that you're really motivated, and that and given that validation of saying, of being like, I'm committed to this, like I'm committed to us, I'm committed to this, and I want to find a way to like make this up. And the other person needs to validate things too a little bit. You know, it might be difficult, but just be like, I see that you're working on this, I still would like it to be more improved, but I see that you're trying. And like that might be as much validation as can be, but it does really help in the relationship. And that's kind of the advice I have on that. I think it's going to take time. And also another thing is, what are you doing for your wife besides like now what sounds like the standard, you know, what are you doing to relieve pressure for her? Because if she's been covering a lot of what you've been doing, maybe she needs a break. Like, you know, maybe she needs a little extra. And that's, in a relationship, it's, I think, healthy to have a flow of things. Like sometimes one partner is having a harder time, and so they need a little bit more care. And then other times the other partner maybe is struggling a little bit more, and they need a little bit more care. And finding other people to get some of like your needs met, like as far as emotional and stuff, is one thing, but also just doing nice things and not doing it in a way that expects any kind of specific response, and not necessarily things that you think are nice, but things that would be actually nice to the partner. Right? um so like just asking, what's a little thing that I could do, even if we don't do it all the time, just something that would take stress off of you and show that I care. Like, you know, um, just looking for those things, because the OP's partner really needs to feel appreciated too. So there are really serious things. I'm glad he's taken a lot of it on himself. That's really responsible. And some people don't do that when they're dealing with issues that they're going through. But it's also, you also have to find a way to let go of that too at some point, because it is what it is. Like this, the OP's going through mental health stuff and had it untreated. Um, you know, I think they still call it learning disabilities. I don't really know. I don't feel exactly like it's that, but like, you know, ADHD, like untreated, is hard, and given a little bit of grace will still take responsibility for the consequences of just like that not being treated. And yeah, so that's my advice. But we're gonna go and look at some of the comments and see where we're at. So, oh, this is nice. Somebody, Autistic Lou, which I think might mean that they're autistic, which is great that they're somewhere, they're, sounds like they might be neurodivergent, so that's great to get a perspective like that. Acknowledge her feelings and give it time. Maybe not believing in you is also a way for her to protect herself from getting her hopes up only to be disappointed again. But I think you can let her know that her support would mean a lot. Just don't pressure her. I think the best way to gain her trust is really just to keep going. Sounds like you're doing great already, so just keep it up. I think that's great advice. And I agree. A lot of times I do that same thing because of my past, where like I don't always like say that I think something's gonna work. Like I'll act like I think it might not work, even if I hope it does. And it's a protective measure. It definitely is. And you know, you don't want to. I don't. That's a whole big thing. You know, why a person would get into that. But I think not pressuring her is another really big point. And with the keep it up, I would say prioritize certain things. So like I would maybe think about what are the like top 5 things that you're doing right now that are different. How hard are those things to do, and prioritize which things, and maybe include her. Be like, hey, I really want to be consistent, but if like I'm having a hard week or something like falls short, I want us to work together on like what things we prioritize, like what things, like I'm gonna, maybe I could do more some weeks, like I'm gonna keep trying to improve, but I want us to be a team on this. And so like maybe you're feeling really excited about the fitness, maybe that's really important, that could be great, but maybe what really needs to be taken care of is help with the kids. Maybe you think the house needs to be clean all the time and like at a certain level, and you're excited about that, but like your health really needs to be looked after. And like, and so if something has to like give a little bit, which can be hard to like get in that mind space when you're so excited about like how things are different and all the things you want to do, and you're trying to save your relationship. But you know, just having like a plan of like action should you start to struggle a little bit. And just because you struggle like a little bit, like a day or two, that doesn't mean that you're gonna go all the way back. You know, you just keep going forward. You know, you keep trying, but sometimes it's like a chart. You know, like it's not like a straight like line like this. It's like, and like I think that would be something to really consider. And I think by including the partner, if you feel like that is a good option, OP, I think that can make them feel included and make them feel heard. Like validate their fears. Be like, I understand you're afraid. And maybe be honest. Maybe there's a part of you that's still afraid. Be like, I'm afraid, but I've never felt like this before. If it feels anything like how I felt, you never felt like that before. And you're really hopeful. And you validate why you understand why they might feel like hesitant to jump on that hope train with you. But that ultimately you are committed, that you have new information and you have treatment happening, and that you're going to continue to work on that. And that as you're working on that, there might be some ups, there might be some downs. But overall, the goal is to continue to like improve. And you just want to work with them as a team, because you guys are a team together, and like you're in a partnership, and that's important to you. You know, the OP said that they were the best friend, and I think that's that's good. And sometimes when we've been struggling, we're like, we'll just do it all by ourselves. And I'm not saying make the wife do a bunch of stuff. I'm saying like give her a voice and a say in like how things are going, and let her feel heard. I get so thirsty talking to you guys. Let's see if they're... Okay, so the OP actually responded to that comment and said, helped. I love the idea of having her text me. Good stuff. Oh, what's this? Oh, I skipped a whole line, you guys. Like, that's part of my, that's part of my stuff. So the commenter had also said, she has to heal and then trust you to care about things again. If you need to do nothing for a bit, tell her I'm sleeping in Sunday, but I will be back at it soon. Communication will be key too. And then the OP said that helped, and that they love the idea of having her text me. Good stuff. Which I like. I think that piece of advice, all of that was really solid. Somebody else says, I think the only shot you really have is just to keep plugging away and doing better. Be consistent. There are too many people who change in a short time, and then eventually go back to their own ways. And your wife knows it. The only way to prove you aren't going to be like that is to not be like that. I would say to that though, my thing is like consistency is good, which is why I say like make smaller goals if possible, or have a plan where like you have lofty goals, but you prioritize certain goals and you say these are the goals that right now I'm gonna be consistent on no matter what. These are the things. Like maybe it's two things, these two things, and this is how it's gonna look. And then as things improve, I'm gonna add more of the other goals. So I'm gonna do as much as I can, but I will always prioritize these two. And then like pick a time, like in a month, I want to look over how we're doing and see if everything feels consistent enough where it feels like I can commit to always doing 3. So on one hand, you're saying, I'm going to do as much as I can. So maybe that's like 10, 15 things, right? Whatever. As many as you want. But on the other hand, you're going to say, but these are going to be the top 2 things. And no matter what, I'm going to do them. Okay? They're going to happen. And always do those things. And then see if you can add another thing. And then another thing. And like let it sit with you. Because like that consistency part is great. But you're going to probably, the OP's probably going to struggle to be consistent with everything. You know? So like showing that you can develop patterns and keep it going. And also have a motivation and ambition. And yeah, I don't know. I feel really hopeful for the OP. Relationships can be hard, but like, I don't know. I really hope it works out for them. I think it's going to be a learning experience. And also sharing what they learn with the wife, like not maybe right now, but as like things stable out. About like what it's like to have ADHD, like how that affects them, you know, and like exploring that aspect. And it's been really helpful in my relationship because at first I didn't realize like it was a thing. I just focused on like trying to do more, the medicine's helping, and like once again I started seeing information from people with ADHD, especially people who had been diagnosed later in life, and understanding like all the ways it's been impacting me and everything. It's really been so helpful on my relationship and also with my partner's communication and understanding each other, and especially if the OP's wife is not neurodivergent, there could be like key misunderstandings that are happening that that can be better addressed. Like, you know, there's ways to meet and understand each other, even like if we have different ways of thinking. So unfortunately, I was going to try to do more, but I'm just going to have to make separate videos. This has gone pretty long, but I hope this was helpful to some of you. I think that this kind of topic is, there's a lot of people who are affected by it. And I would say if you have any like thoughts about like, oh, I wonder if I have this, it's worth checking out. Like it really is. Like it can be difficult, but it is worth it. If you do have something like ADHD or whatnot, it could be just so wonderful to realize that you're not alone and that you're not damaged. You're perfectly normal and just as worthy as everyone else, and that there are solutions out there to help you have a stable, very functioning and successful life. So with that, I will say goodbye to all of you, my lovelies, and I hope you have a wonderful night.